Once you're told something is bad and you don't care to change your mind, are you really going to?
It stands out from the crowd, and so as a result it's going to definitely draw stories towards it.
It's just one face all the time. Maybe you're lucky you get to hear maybe a hiss, but otherwise you have no idea what they're thinking and what they're doing.
I'm Professor Matthew Dillon. I'm professor and chair of classics and archaeology here at Loyola Marymount University. I've been here for quite a while, and I teach Latin and Greek and related subjects with the ancient world.
My name is Heather Wong. I am a reptile breeder, specifically ball pythons.
My name is Nathan Villarreal. I am the co-founder of AVV Exotics Reptile Breeding Facility.
So my name is Dr. Amberly Sokoloff, and I am a veterinarian at Pet Care Veterinary Hospital in Santa Rosa, California.
Snakes have always seemed a little strange and mysterious to people. There's no doubt about that. Perhaps it's because of their peculiar shape and their fascinating way of crawling. Or maybe it's because they're so silent. They slip quickly and quietly across our paths. They have no call, like most birds, or no howl, like many wild animals. Or it may be because they're so very alone and independent. Each snake lives completely on its own from the time it's a day-old baby. It never makes a home in which it raises a family as many birds and animals do. And of course, some snakes are poisonous, and that makes people a little shy of them all, even the harmless ones. As we find out more and more about snakes, we're realizing that there's nothing really mysterious about them at all. They have their own very special ways of living, just as any other animal does.
Well, I think the appearance of snakes is obviously exceptional, having no arms and legs, and the way they move is clearly something eerie, very different from most of the rest of the animal and reptile world. So that's got to arrest your attention, first of all. And then secondly, I think the virulence of the poison, the venom, is something that was clearly understood early on by ancient peoples, and that lent an aura of eeriness and danger to the snake, even though it doesn't make them evil, as some people think, but it gives them tremendous power. So between the appearance and the potency of their venom, I think it's a perfect animal to emerge on center stage for mythology. Well, Python comes from a very famous story that was associated with the god Apollo, who was the god of archery. And his story is that he's wandering around in search of a sanctuary and comes to a place which is now known as Delphi, a very famous sanctuary in Greece, in northern part of Greece. And this sanctuary is guarded by a snake. It belongs to the goddess Earth, Gaia. And as it's protected by the snake is also associated with the earth because it emerges from the earth. So it's a natural protector for this sanctuary. Apollo, however, slays the snake and then lets it rot and says that because you are rotting here, we will call this place Pytho. And the word pythomai in Greek means I rot. And so Pytho basically means rotting snake or something like that. It attaches to the place, and his priestess that gives the oracles from this famous spot is known as the Pythian priestess because of this relationship with the python snake, which has nothing to do with the genre of the snake or the species of the snake, but rather the fact that it was allowed to rot on the premises. Delightful story. The earliest story is probably in the Epic of Gilgamesh, which is an ancient Sumerian, Mesopotamian story, one of the greatest and oldest myths in the world. It's generated about 2500 BC, probably takes shape around 2000 BC, so it's a very, very old story, older than most of the Bible, and certainly older than the Greeks and Romans. And there it's a kind of at the very end of the the story, the man Gilgamesh, the hero Gilgamesh, has received a plant that supposedly will rejuvenate people so that he's searching for immortality, and this is the closest he can come, is to have this plant that when you eat it, it makes people young again. And as he's on his way home, he sets it aside to take a drink, and a snake pops out of nowhere and eats this plant and takes away from humans the possibility of this sort of immortality, but obviously grants the snake a sort of immortality because in the way that they interpreted it, when the snake sheds its skin, it emerges new and young again. So it doesn't really die, but comes back rejuvenated. So that's the earliest snake on record, I think.
Shedding or slowing is when a snake basically gets rid of the top layer of their skin. They do this every time they grow or shrink in size. Shrinking by not eating or being dehydrated, they lose body mass. And each time they do this, their skin doesn't stretch far enough, and so they have to get rid of this old layer of skin.
So, a couple of things are important to the metabolism of snakes are that they are ectotherms, so they can't produce their own body heat, and they're poikilotherms, so that means that their body temperature varies with the temperature of their surroundings. And so their metabolism is greatly affected by what temperature they're at. So when it is cooler outside and they're cold, their metabolism slows down quite a bit. Some species of snakes will go through a period of hibernation or brumation, where they actually, don't eat for months at a time, don't move around a whole lot, and so their metabolism is very much kind of tied to temperature and environment.
Ball pythons are on an annual schedule for reproduction. Generally, they go through a period of brumation, which is a light hibernation. When they wake up with extreme vigor, and at that point, they start to lock up, basically copulating for reproduction. And about 2 months later, they start laying eggs.
Males have testes inside the coelom or abdomen, and then they have a structure called the hemipenis, which is similar to the phallus or penis in other animals, but it's actually kind of forked, and so it has two prongs to it. And so when they mate with the females, most of them kind of coil up together, and the hemipenes are introduced into the cloaca of the female.
The most interesting thing to me about the snakes is the reptilian brain. As humans, you see emotions, you see the connection between people. You can actually determine what somebody's actually saying by the way they're actually looking at you, responding, emotional cues. With snakes, that doesn't happen. With misunderstanding the lack of emotion and not being able to put that into a category, there are a lot of people that just don't know how to respond to that and don't know how to turn that into something that they can understand. Just like, a person who's just standing stock still, what are they doing? I don't know. What are they doing? So, just like snakes, you see them, they're hanging out there, they're crawling across the floor, and nobody really knows what they're thinking. Immediately there's the fear, because, oh no, is it going to bite me or is it going to run away? Generally, as we all know, snakes would rather run away than bite you because it's not really worth it in their end. But when it comes down to it, you don't know, I don't know. Be cool to kind of know, but unfortunately that's not going to happen. Dr. Dolittle, though, that'd be kind of cool.
Snakes in general, mainly ball pythons, they aren't outwardly aggressive. They're very defensive when they need to be, as if they're cornered. But generally, ball pythons are very gentle creatures.
So, a lot of people think that, oh, snakes are slimy and they feel really weird when you touch them. For anyone who's ever felt either a snake skin or, kind of other reptile skin, boots or purse or belts or anything like that, that's pretty much what they feel like. They're very dry and very smooth when they're healthy and really, have a pretty nice feeling to them.
The most common misconception about snakes would honestly have to be that they're evil. People, from whatever reason that they come up with, snakes tend to be this demonized animal that, everybody's just immediately scared of with no rational reason. There's no particular reason other than, biblical background or anything really. Just fear of the unknown. People don't understand it, that way they're not going to be afraid of it.
The encounters I've had with rattlesnakes, if I see a rattlesnake on a hike, that's a good day for me. I feel the magic and the power of that animal. It really is amazing. And to hear that sound, to me, it's all positive. I've never had a negative encounter with a snake, and I'm sorry for people who have the wrong idea.
Snakes have been really important throughout human history just based on the fact that they've always existed. They have always been a part of life. No matter where you go in the world, with the exception of maybe a few places, there are always going to be snakes. So with that, and knowing that they can be a somewhat top predator, so to speak, they can hurt a human, depending on what they are, that's kind of where either the respect or the fear comes from. Because they can affect you as a human being, obviously you have to care about them. So, if you actually care about them with the respect that they deserve, you can put them high on a pedestal and teach everybody that it's fine, thereby having people avoid them just out of respect. Or you can have the opposite, where you have people fearing them, chopping off their heads, running away screaming like a little girl, all that kind of stuff. And again, it goes back all the way back. Not going back to Adam and Eve, but even just, back in the 50s, back in the 20s, colonial days, there were snakes, Do we read about them? No, not really, because they're probably afraid of them, killing them, chopping off their heads. But they're always going to be there. So that is, therefore, the lesson that you learn. Respect, destroy, pick one.
I think, again, it comes down to their eerie nature. It's a very particular thing. You see a snake, it's a snake. You see some other kind of animal off in the woods, you maybe don't know what it is. But snakes are immediately recognizable, and they have this kind of awesome aspect to it, in the real sense of that word, so that it's fascinating, it's hypnotic, and as a result, they capture the imagination. Just by their very oddness, and I would say also by their beauty. It's a beautiful animal, sleek and shiny, and something that it stands out from the crowd. And so as a result, it's going to definitely draw stories towards it. The fact that it's a very powerful animal in various ways helps there. The fact that it's sort of sneaky also helps, and so it can play that negative role very easily. But it is such an exceptional animal that it's just bound to work its way into storytelling patterns, because they love that sort of thing that captures your imagination, and snakes do that for us.